And here we are, everyone. This is the ending.
Oh my god!
We finally done it.
We've finally
There's
done
people hanging around my house.
How do you find it here?
There aren't drunken whores.
But our goal is to scatter our operation.
Yeah, they've actually got a pretty high-class clientele here.
Yes.
Just as Altair Ben La had once counsel.
Well, until that time, it's yours as you see fit.
Edward, Captain Woods Rogers survived his wounds. He has since returned to
Yeah,
England.
when we stabbed the guy on the park bench, we did not kill him.
Oh,
Yeah.
assassination failed.
You have my word.
Well, we kind of.
Edward seems to have a problem with that. He didn't kill Charles Vane, and he didn't kill Woods Rogers.
Evening, Anne.
Edward?
I'll be sailing for London in the
I
next
mean,
few
but
months.
surely we all have time for shirtless pirates.
Yeah.
You were beside
One
me.
last drink
Yep.
without a bar
England's
fight.
the
What's the
wrong
fun
way
in
around
that?
the globe for an Irishman.
Yeah, we're not staring at some guy's girl or
Stay with the assassins.
shoving a drunk guy aside. What is this?
No, I haven't got that kind of conviction in my heart. You?
In time, aye. When my mind is settled and my blood is cool.
After the kind of post-credit scene, I'll let Toffel explain what ended up happening to Edward.
Yeah.
You're a good man, Edward.
But we've got one more familiar face we need to meet before this game is over.
You'll make a fine father, too.
Well, vaguely familiar, but we know who it is.
Yes.
He has not been seen in this game, but you know, he's there.
We saw him last episode.
We did?
Concept art.
Oh, that's right, yes. Aww.
Aw. Need to quit eating the mushrooms, Edward.
Do either of you happen to know what this song is called?
No.
It is called The Parting Glass. It is a traditional song of farewell in Scotland and Ireland.
Just like Danny Boy.
Exactly.
Oh, that's an ugly kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's Edward's kid.
Still ugly.
Yes.
Well, that's not very nice.
Where's his wife? Okay.
Well, no, we've got... You
20
know the
minutes
scene I'm
credit.
referring to, right? No, not 20 minutes. There's about 35-ish minutes of credits or something.
Right.
Christ. It'll be soft.
Something like that.
So,
No, after the final post-credit scene.
alright. You know, she
This is a
just
nice
got
way.
off the boat, Edward.
Yeah, it's a little hard on a kid, but this is a nice way to end the game.
Yeah.
I always like this. Now, I actually have a version of The Parting Glass on my iPod, and I quite like it a lot.
Is it
It's
from
one
the
of those-
soundtrack or just randomly downloaded?
It's from Celtic Woman, actually.
Ah.
For that Celtic man in you.
Well, never mind. I was going to say something, but then I realized how dumb it sounded, so never mind.
But did you always know?
No. No, I learned after leaving Bristol.
After you left Mother?
Well, I didn't leave your
And I was concerned that on Edward's present course he was going to end up in, I don't know, Morocco or something. So I had to shift course.
Yeah.
She said you always
I mean, you know how like you can change a single digit in a
Yeah.
supersonic jet or something and end up on at a totally different part of the world. It's like that.
Edward didn't sail for a lark, he sailed for a jackdaw.
Like, I think there was a story of some jet that was headed to Jerusalem or Moscow and ended up in the opposite city because there was a tiny little mistake.
That's all true, and I'm sorry for that. I know learning.
Slightly correcting my course here.
I hope that I did.
well, you didn't. That's what I think.
And there's some very nice music playing behind this scene, too.
That wouldn't have mattered.
Why, Daddy? Because nothing is free and everything is permitted.
Boat! I see no boat here. For you.
Yeah, this whole ship versus boat thing,
Obviously,
it's kind of hard to explain to somebody. I probably wouldn't do a very good job of it.
Very simple one, then.
But if that question ever comes up, you can just quote Edward here.
why then, everything's a ship. Large and small. But for my toy boats, the one I take into the bathroom.
But then Jenny's rebuttal, you got to be prepared for it.
That's a clever way of seeing it.
Well, it's the 1700s. Nobody bathed.
Well, she looks like a very prim and proper young woman.
She passed
Yeah.
sunrise
I think at this point she's like 7 or 8 or something.
I don't know. I don't think so.
This is really getting disturbing, Edward.
Some time. Then, not so happy. I didn't see her much after that. Then,
How so? Why is it disturbing?
Let's ask the dead kid about his wife dying.
Well, all's well that ends well, I guess.
Except for the wife.
Eh.
you're here now. And we're on an adventure.
Only a little one, I hope. Can't handle too many more surprises.
You think we'll see a whale?
I always like this next line coming up about pirates.
And what about pirates? Will I see pirates?
No. Not much chance of that, I think.
Aww.
Oh, that's rather sad. I should have liked to have seen one.
Ooh.
Tell you what, Jenny. As soon as these winds die a little, I'll let you steer the Jack go. One little trick at the helm before sundown.
Yay!
Oh, hey, a whale. Maybe I'll see a
Slowed down
pirate.
and couldn't see it.
Now,
And then Edward killed him.
if you played Assassin's Creed 3, this might look a little familiar.
Yes.
Tad.
To be fair, though, that is one of the more memorable parts of the game, I think.
Yes.
And here we have some random tosspot that I don't think has a name or is ever mentioned again.
Jennifer Scott, if you please.
I'm sorry.
He might be, but hey.
My daughter.
And Edward's got a really nice outfit. I wish you could unlock that outfit in the actual game.
Passed away some years ago.
I would have totally used it.
Her surname to mine.
Forgive my ignorance.
I will. She may not.
Father, help me.
This little rascal, however, is a Kenway. What's wrong?
And this is our old friend Hatham, who... Do you remember who he was, Saponticate?
Yes, he was the bad
How's
guy, sort of.
Fine.
And he was also the first playable character in Assassin's Creed 3.
But if they
Yes.
do, then we shall quit this posh gig.
There is a line near the very start of 3 that Hatham says his father always liked to bring him here. So that's why we have that scene. And
Yes.
now that we're basically done with the game's content, explain what happened to Edward.
So, Edward kind of went on living like he did for a little while. Forget exactly when it was, but several years after this, he joined the Assassins, kind of brought up the Brotherhood in London, and found the Shroud of Eden, which is some magical thing to let you bring the dead back to life. Sometime thereafter, he was murdered in the Opera House.
Well, I don't think...
Well,
that-
he wasn't
No,
murdered
no.
in the... He was supposedly killed in his house.
Yes.
and Jenny was abducted. This was done by the Templars, led by, I think he is the man that you see in the first game. I forget what his name, in the third game. Who I cannot quite remember what his name is. You'll tell me in a second, I'm sure. But
actually, I forget his name too. But
yeah, his name is Sir, not appearing in this game anymore because you kill him.
Sir Expanded Universe.
Yeah. So basically, he was arranging. It wasn't him, but it was like he had a son or a nephew or something, whatever. They were going to marry Jenny, and they used that to get into the mansion, kidnap Jenny, and then he raised Edward. Well, he raised Hatham instead of Edward for the next so many years, which is why Hatham is a Templar for Assassin's Creed 3. Ultimately, he does in fact discover that Jenny was kidnapped by this man, and he rescues Jenny, who is then returned to London, and kills him at the start of Assassin's Creed 3, and sails to found his new order of the Templars in America, because they don't want to be as shitty as the old world Templars had been for a very long time. And then he gets drunk, has sex with a Native American, really picks the wrong horse to back in the among other things, the horse to back during the Revolutionary War, and basically is killed as a result.
Hatham went on a manhunt for the Templar guy who was ultimately responsible for the death of Edward and the abduction of Jenny. He is killed. The leader is killed at some point, and then Hatham decides to go back to America to sort of manage the new branch of the Templars being developed there, which leads into Assassin's Creed 3.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, something. I did read the details on the wiki quite a few months ago, so that
doesn't really.
Yeah, it doesn't really affect anything that well, obviously this game's plot is over, but none of that is really mentioned very much in Assassin's Creed 3 either. It's kind of expanded universe stuff, as I said. But yeah, this is not the entire end of Edward Kenway's involvement in the series, because you can visit his manor house in Syndicate, and he's mentioned as sort of an old leader of the Brotherhood in London in Syndicate, who the assassins are well aware of.
I stole shit out of his house.
So did I.
Yeah.
And apparently Edward also brought a lot of knickknacks back from the New World, including the Jackdaw's wheel, I think, or something, and that is hanging up in his house.
I think the figurehead too. No.
Yep. Something to do with it.
But yeah, he brought a lot of knickknacks back, and you can see various Black Flag Easter eggs in Syndicate. And, of course, you can wear Edward's robes in both Unity and Syndicate. So, there you go.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that'll about do it for the main game.
Yay.
So, Ponticate, what did you think of the game you didn't get to see very much of?
I'm like, not bad. I'm playing through Syndicate.
I have to get back to finishing Syndicate.
Yeah, it's been good so far. I think the concept of Black Flag was interesting and things like that. It was probably just a lot to do with the repetitiveness of the mission that made it just sort of but the plot itself was okay. I mean, it was nice to be somebody who's like, I really don't give a shit about the assassins, and kind of doing his own thing, even though he more or less came back into the fold.
I felt he developed in a pretty good way over the course of the game.
Yeah, he really, really didn't give a fuck at the beginning, and said he sort of came around to the end, and it wasn't anything super broad.
The game's length was good enough that his development felt natural. It didn't feel like there was any Assassin's Creed 3 stuff where there was big leaps in time between action. So you could follow along with Edward as he sort of tries to build the pirate utopia fails and then gets all depressed as his friends
Yeah.
die one after one.
Then he goes insane and builds a giant murder cavern underneath his
Yes.
manor house, full of exploding mummies and hands and rib cages and leg
Well, you know.
bones.
Did you ever get around to playing Uncharted 4?
I haven't played
Oh,
it. No.
you're gonna need to get on that because this exploding mummy talk is going way over your head. I can guarantee that.
Okay.
It's the greatest chapter in video game history. It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
But
But it's
from Dark Souls, because Dark Souls 2 had those fucking exploding mummies, pieces of shit.
no. It's a man 100, 200 years before the game started, killed a bunch of people, mummified them, and rigged them to explode. Whenever somebody gets close to tripwires that you have absolutely no
Well,
way
no,
to
I
see.
thought it was the lights that was setting them off.
I
I'm
have no
pretty
fucking
sure it
clue.
was the lights.
Yeah, because 200 years ago we had proximity bombs. Those were totally a thing.
I am pretty sure it was fire that was setting
Listen,
it off.
we're talking about Uncharted here, okay?
I thought it
God,
made
all right.
sense. All right.
It's Uncharted. Listen, the first game had a fucking oh god, what the fuck was
It was
the
El
first game?
Dorado.
Yeah, it was El Dorado. Oh, that's right. That had the mass biological plague.
In the sarcophagus.
and Nazi, mummies.
yes.
Yes. And then the second game had Yetis. They weren't really
Yes.
Yetis. They were, and
They
they were also super powered, like
Yeah.
insane people, filled with the tree of the world or some shit like that. And then the third game was mass hallucinations.
Yeah, and flaming
Kind of.
skeletons called Jinn.
Yeah. So let for the love of God, proximity mines for fucking mummies is like the least.
I'm
of my
sorry, I
worries.
did not think they were proximity triggered.
He doesn't. And even if they were lights,
If you get it,
actually they're almost all in the dark. So
yeah,
it is true.
that's the impression I got from it, that your torch or light was setting with things setting them off.
But then there was one time when it blew up the minigunner, but the minigunner just walked near it. He didn't have a light shining on it, except
Well, I don't know what to say about
whatever.
that. But anyway, Toffle, your final thoughts on Black Flag?
So I think Assassin's Creed Black Flag is, in a lot of ways, it was probably one of the highest points of the series after Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. After Revelations Revelations isn't bad. Don't get me wrong; it's just a bit of a disappointment, all things
Yeah,
considered.
it does kind of feel like a step sideways.
Revelations is good in the sense
I just
that
thought the soundtrack of the game was really good.
the soundtrack is good, and the updated visuals are very, very nice. But ultimately, the game does not exactly evolve
Yeah.
a lot past the previous two games. It's very
Yeah.
similar in the formula. The only major difference it does is that the little optional side tombs to get your super armor weren't actually optionally, and they were
Yeah.
mandatory to do. So there was that side difference. But ultimately, you get a bunch of guys, you put them in dens. The den defense was a remarkably
I did.
Yeah.
I did not
I know
think
you
it, I'm
love
just
it.
saying I didn't think it was. I don't think it deserves all the hate it gets. That's all I'm saying.
Well, if that's
Okay.
what I mean, but if you're playing something like a tower defense game, that's what you expect. You're like, this is my stabby man simulator. What the fuck? am doing
I
tower
thought it was
Yes,
an
and
amusing
the- and
distraction to the game. That's all I'm saying.
They make it.
It was optional.
Yes. Well, it was basically optional, except with the exception of one time that forced you
Yes,
to do
at the
it, which
ve-
I'm
at
okay
the
with.
at the very
It could-
start
it
of the
could be
game,
worse.
and you have to have a broken controller to fail it.
Yes. There's one time, and if you are smart about it, you'll never do it again. The other thing that Revelations had was the bomb-making system, which was probably the first real, semi-crafting system, aside from the stuff in sort of the side quests that you could do in Brotherhood. But the bomb making system was interesting. It ultimately was probably more of a distraction than anything. There were very interesting things that it did, and ultimately streamlining in the later games was probably a much better idea than what they did. It's just there were just way too many combinations, and the situational uses were great, but they involved a lot of foresight that you didn't necessarily have unless you were replaying a mission. And basically, the major problem was that unless you're the best thing to carry around were smoke bombs because they were situationally
the thing is, there were a lot of sort of unique bomb types, like the ones you could bounce off walls. But
you had the lamp. You had the lamps. You had the lamp slot, the coins, and they both were kind of useless. And then you had your Datura, your Thunder Bomb, your
it's just
bomb,
there was never a really need in a game to be that specific or had bombs that specialized, which is kind of a letdown because you can make a whole bunch of bomb combinations, but ultimately, like many crafting systems, only a few are really awesome and worth your time.
Right. So in that sense, and then you get to Assassin's Creed 3, and 3 was... There are parts of 3 I really like, but ultimately 3 is kind of a disjointed mess for various reasons.
We got the voice cast here. A whole bunch of names I don't recognize, but there you go.
Oh, hey, Matt Ryan, quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons. All right. So basically, for Assassin's Creed 3, it's just there are good things. There are really, really good things in that game, and then there are really, really shitty things in that game. And they kind of. The really good things were the naval missions. There was too much tailing in that game, for one. Also, like the map, while kind of an interesting thought in trying to adapt a real live large map of that scale, kind of really sucks because it's the most.
It feels too hard to move around. Is what I remember.
It does feel somewhat hard to move around because there's a lot of things that are just kind of like, there's a lot of wilderness and it's kind of hard to get around everywhere. But at the same time, it also kind of pisses me off because as somebody who's grown up and spent his entire life living in the Atlantic Northeast, New England, New York, that's the region I grew up in. And it bugs the fuck out of me whenever this happens, and it happens every once in a while. But when you're building the map for the game, I understand that there's parts where convenience can take effect, but the map in 3 is just so goddamn horrible because you have stuff like Valley Forge is sitting to the northwest of Lexington. First of all, Valley Forge is outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Which is well to the southwest of Lexington, which is right next to Boston.
We went over this a while ago. It's Animus.
We've gone through this a long time ago. I know, but that doesn't change the fact that it's just like
JPEG artifacts in it.
Actually, don't. I could get sort of JPEGs, but whatever. So.
For Assassin's Creed 3, it's a game that has its moments. It has some good ideas, but there's just too much to get through to get to the good stuff, which understandably turns a lot of people off.
Yeah, and ultimately they really did take a lot of the good things from Assassin's Creed 3 and put it in.
These Germans have wacky names.
Distilled it, and it's a very
Volker Wolf.
Yoshihiro?
I like that name.
It's a very good game in that sense.
Well, how about getting to this game then?
So, well, I was starting to now because what I was saying was Assassin's Creed Black Flag is a very good game in the sense that it takes everything that they did very good in Assassin's Creed 3 and kind of stripped away all the really, really shitty things. So you kind of get a much... It's a much more pure game experience in a sense, and it isn't like just repetitive bullshit that everybody hates and nobody really knows why you're doing, which is really, really actually kind of amazing that I'm saying that about Black Flag, because if it wasn't for the pirate motif, half the shit you do kind of would actually piss you off a lot in that sense. But the story is good, the gameplay is good, capturing ships is a good and welcome change to the series, naval combat is good. You know, generally, I mean, you have the Ubisoft open world formula definitely in effect here, where, you know, and ultimately it's just a really, really good and well put together game, and you don't have like random things like, why is there lawn bowling? I mean, there are things that I don't really care about, like your hideout, or your hideout is kind of meaningless because in this game you
can do anything from the ship that you can from Great Inagua.
Right, except for miscellaneous collectibles that you have no real need to anyway. Then the other thing that I would say that I would really... How would I best phrase this?
Maybe things that don't add to the game much?
Yeah, well, there aren't a lot in this. The only other thing I really hate is that, like, the game is really fucking weird, and anybody who's watched this thread all the way through will probably guess what I'm about to say next about weapon unlocking. And it's just a very weird way that they go about doing this.
Is there a single game market Ubisoft doesn't cover? I was just watching all those different version names. They have German, Spanish, Japanese, Brazilian, Russian, Portuguese, and South Korean, Arabic.
Listen, this team was made by a multicultural development group of multi-ethnic backgrounds. As they will tell you every single time you boot the game up. But anyway, rope darts. There, I said it. It's the end of the game. Rope darts. Fuck you for the rope dart thing. Ultimately, this is also kind of weird in the sense that this game, you know, you get to expand. There was an expansion in a later kind of like spin-off. The expansion, which is Freedom's Cry.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
I'm not going to talk too much about because you're going to help. You're going to be getting to that, so it's best to see. It's a very Freedom's Cry is a very good game. Very narrative disjointed at points. There's one scene in particular that I'm thinking about now that really kind of comes out of nowhere. But then you have your spin-off, which is Assassin's Creed Rogue, which distills this game even further and is...
Yeah, Rogue is...
I don't think it is. I don't think it is
good as this game, but it's still a fine game in its own right. I didn't regret spending time with it at all.
Yeah.
Rogue has its own set of problems. Like, I feel the game starts way too late. When you becoming a Templar takes too long, from what I remember. Once you become a Templar, the game really opens up and becomes quite a bit funner.
Everything goes.
Yeah, Rogue is not a very long game.
Really
Rogue is about half as long as this game.
In a sense. It's only got like 6 memory sequences.
It's very much Black Flag 2.
And they're
so
all
if you
very
like this game,
formulaic.
you'll almost certainly like Rogue.
Right, and then of course, following that, you have the everybody's favorite Assassin's Creed game that kind of overshadowed Rogue at the time.
Unity and Rogue are kind of sister games because they were released at like the exact same time or something. Yeah.
They were released at the exact same time.
Again, I can't comment much on Unity just after launch because I didn't get it until like a year and a half later. But I feel like the multiplayer in Unity was actually really fun, and it's
I enjoyed the co-op stuff.
I ran into some nasty lag. I don't know how bad it
Yeah.
was on average compared to the typical multiplayer experience, but when it was really working, the multiplayer was a lot of fun, and I did not expect that.
Yeah. No, I really, really did like Unity.
Yeah.
I understand why I got such a fucking bad rap, I'm not gonna lie. But it was actually a really, really fun game, and still is. It's just, like, they had a very big vision for what they were going to do with that game, and it failed miserably. And I can't really get too mad at them for
It was
swinging for the
really
fences
pushing
and
the
missing,
limits on what the
but
PS4
dear
and
God.
Xbox One could do. Unity is a huge game.
Yeah.
My God, it's massive.
And ultimately, the weird thing is, as much as people like to bitch about, like,
It
collectibles in that game, it has fewer
Yeah, the
collectibles than
collectible-
fucking Black Flag.
Yeah, the collectible situation is not
But-
bad in Unity, and it's not bad in Syndicate either, which tells me they're getting better at it.
It's just. Yeah, I mean the problem with Unity, I think, is that everything got revealed at once, so there isn't a lot of, like, and it's all one map, so you don't have.
Yeah.
Technically, there's a second map, but the second map is really tiny. But basically, the problem that you run into is that it just all comes at you at once, so it's very overwhelming. Whereas in Black Flag and Rogue, there are a lot of sub maps, and you have your main world map, and then for Black Flag you have the main world map, then you have 3 or 4 little maps
there's-
for your islands. And
Yeah,
it's
you
just,
can
it's a
sort
lot
of
more
take the
compartmentalized,
game
so it
map,
isn't
game
overwhelming.
world a chunk at a
And-
time.
Right, and Rogue is very similar in that regard. It's split up in 3 maps instead of just 2, instead of like 4. But it's still
Yeah.
very tiny comparatively speaking.
Syndicate's
and then,
really
After
good.
that, we've had Syndicate. You also Syndicate is a really good game, and it keeps pissing me off that I never.
I
really,
still have to go back.
I still haven't actually finished it.
I still have to go
Oh.
back and finish
I
Jack
really
the Ripper, which I
should
started
finish
a
it.
while ago, and the final set of missions you get after the end of the game that
Yeah.
are purely bonus stuff. I won't spoil who you get those missions from though.
Yeah.
But yeah, Syndicate's really good, and it kind of caught a lot of people by surprise that it
So-
was as good as it was. But
Well, nobody's expecting it to be really good, and how
Yeah.
they kind of handle it.
But
in
after
a lot of the
Syndicate,
things
I
in
can
the game is
definitely
really
understand
good.
them wanting
And-
to take a year off and kind of figure out what they want to do next with the series.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
can
were
admit.
really running really fucking ragged for a very long time, and it really
it's
was
not
getting
Call of Duty
shown.
and shit when
It's-
it was out
it's
in
not like
March, it's
it-
probably not the
It's not like
best.
any of the Assassin's Creed
Yeah.
games are just
Sort of
horrible. It's
thing.
just you gotta imagine it takes a lot of effort to make these games, and it just had been driving the programmers insane to keep building a huge giant world map every year. Yeah, I cannot even
churning
imagine
these
all
out.
the hours that
Yeah.
went into Paris, for example. Yeah, it's a good map. It's just it
Paris
must
is
have
a
taken
really good map too.
It must have taken like centuries of man hours to build. It is a huge city in that game.
I think I remember seeing something about how they did it. It wasn't actually that bad. They made some sort of procedural, like there is some sort of like procedural generation tool that they developed to help them do that. So everything kind of like sticks together like little building blocks, which is why it's kind of samey in some regards. But
Yeah.
you're not really going to notice that all that much. The different parts of Paris definitely feel different enough where you have a general idea where you are depending on.
Well, yeah, I mean Paris and London. It's like stick the landmarks that were around at the time that everybody knows about and build around that because
Nobody really gets
Well,
a shit.
I got to imagine they
back
have
then.
better sources
Right.
for Paris and
Animus
London
compression.
than they had for like Havana or early 16th century Rome.
Yeah. Photography had been invented in,
Yeah.
at least in Syndicate. So
Yeah.
But yeah, Black Flag, basically what Toffel says, to me, it's it has a lot of different parts that are all kind of moving all at the same time, and the story really comes. The story, I think, was a particular strong point of this game. The gameplay, it gets a little monotonous after a while, but there's so much different stuff to do and so many places to poke around. It never really feels like too much of a pain, because if you're getting bored with the side stuff, you can always go on a main mission. And of course you have legendary ships, you have you have cities to explore, you have artifacts to look through and all that stuff. And, you know, if you want to go hacking in the present time, you can do that too. So there's a lot of different parts to this game that, even though it's a pretty long game, it never feels like a huge chore to go through and 100% everything. Mostly, yeah.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah, the mini games.
Chess after a while. Chess after a while.
Mostly because I'm not great at them, but still. No, I don't. I'm never.
You don't
playing
ever have to
Nine
play
Man's
Nine Man's
again.
Morris again, so there is that.
There you go.
Well, yeah. For a final question, I've narrowed my potential next Assassin's Creed game down to either Brotherhood or, let's say, Rogue. What say you, Toffel, or Exploding Mummy?
That's really a Sophie's choice in games.
Nope. Nobody
Brotherhood
did.
or Rogue.
There's a
anybody done Rogue
concurrent
yet?
LP of this game going on now, but
Probably.
it started like a few months ago, so it's probably not anywhere close to finished.
Well, you might as well do Rogue so you can just close the book on Assassin's Creed 3 for good. Up until we make you do Syndicate or something, so we can see what happens to
Probably
Edward
not,
after the fact. Because you're never
So
going to escape
Ponskit,
this.
what's your vote?
Actually, I'd go the other way just because.
Yeah,
it's
that's
such a
a pretty good
goddamn
argument,
game,
and
it's so much fun.
because this
Tank
game
mission.
and Rogue are so similar, and I kind of need a break from a Black Flag gameplay for a while. I'm leaning more in Brotherhood's direction. Oh, I'll do the tank mission.
Fine,
You can
if you're
count on that.
100%ing it, you're 100%ing the tank mission.
So you two are down with me going through Brotherhood next?
Ah, boy.
Alright. Brotherhood it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very good.
that one I've actually played to
You probably
completion,
didn't
so I'll know what
100% the
fuck
tank
is
mission.
going on? I don't even remember the tank mission. So there you go. It's been a while
Take
since I
no
played it.
damage.
Well, if I got through it,
it's not
then-
that the
and
mission
it
is
doesn't stick in
awful,
my
it's
brain
just
as
the
being
bonus
horribly
objective is
awful.
awful.
Well, there you go.
Well,
And
Oh, I see.
and this is, and of course,
yes.
this is the game where you have to
in
do
this
all the
game
bonus
they
objectives in one
introduced you
run.
can do the bonus objectives separately, which is very nice. But I didn't know it until Toffel pointed it out to me that you could do that. So yeah, in this game, 100% sync
Yeah, I get
basically
100%
pointless, but
sync.
you do get some pretty neat bonuses for 100% synchronization of sequences in Brotherhood, including the ability to ride around on a mythical beast. Yeah, Brotherhood was the
Is that
first
the one
game
that
with
they
horseback
introduced the
riding,
horsey back
which
riding?
is not in this game or Syndicate. But Syndicate has carriages, so it doesn't really matter.
Right. Carriages.
Exactly.
It's
The
just
funnest part of
GTA.
Syndicate running around,
Hijack it and drive
driving
off
on
with
the
it.
streets was
Pretty much.
jumping from carriage to carriage in the middle of a fight. I loved doing that. Now,
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought it was running orphans down. Because that happens a lot.
Listen. Victorian London was kind of a fucked up place.
I'm not even doing it on purpose. And I'm like, hey,
As-
there's a girl
as-
running
as your
over. I'm just,
as your
like,
best
driving
friend
my
Charles
carriage and some
Dickens
little
would tell
kid
you.
runs out in the street, and I'm like, whoops.
As he makes you go and look through a haunted ghost place that really isn't haunted because there was a crazed madman and then he dies before he could write the story. That was actually That's actually true. Because that plot is very
Yeah,
similar to the very
Dickens
plot.
did, Syndicate
novel
did the
that Dickens
cameos
was working
pretty
on
well.
before he died.
Dickens' missions were
Oh.
always entertaining.
I don't know that one the fucker gave me with the guy down in the basement. Kill him with a thing of explosives. So I dropped a crate of explosives down there, totally blew the dude up, but didn't get credit for it.
Oh, hey,
what the fuck?
We're getting to production, baby.
How did I not kill him with explosives?
Which is a lot
He
less
just
than I
blew
thought for
up.
a game that probably took this long to develop.
Oh.
Like, I think this game was in development before Assassin's Creed 3 was finished.
Listen, Ubisoft is very clear.
Basically.
No more sex.
You know, I
Finish
honestly
the
can't
fucking
believe
game.
we sat here
You can
talking
ask-
through the entire credits. After the Hatham scene, I was just going to say, all right, everyone at home, you can watch the credits if you want. We're done here, but
Yeah.
hey, we gotten this far, so we might as well finish it out.
We're done here. Fuck this shit.
Yes. Listen. It's better than me watching a 17-year-old episode.
No
yeah,
real
17-year-old
pirates were
episode
harmed in
of
the making of
WCW
this
Monday
game.
Nitro.
Just thought you should.
Jason fucking Hervey on commentary.
just thought you guys should know that.
They're all dead.
There we go. I'm ranked 7126 in Prosperous Pirates.
All right.
Wow.
Whoosh.